So pleased to have me today, the Queen Slayer, a woman not to mess with, Anna Jay. Thank you so much for joining me today on Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations.
Oh, yes. Thank you for having me.
So starting off, you just came off an incredibly physical match with someone you were close with, Julia Hart of the House of Black, on this past Dynamite. How did it feel to have that kind of a match with someone you've been close to and also tied to throughout your career on live television?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was cool. I definitely didn't expect to have that kind of match with Julia ever. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's one of those things where, to me personally, those kind of matches are the most fun and the most intense and kind of just a different beast in itself. So to have that with Julia was kind of cool. I mean, obviously, we're not the best friends now, but yeah, overall, I'm happy with it. And I think that it went okay besides me losing.
Right. I was going to say, you keep ending up in these wild brawls. You had the match with Ty Conti against the Bunny and Penelope. You had the big leaping power bomb against Willow Nightingale in the street or this street fight here. What do you like or dislike about creating in that kind of an environment?
Um, It's a good question. I mean, for different reasons. I mean, every match is going to be different, but like for the past one against Ruby and Willow, those kind of things, like something went wrong, and like that's kind of something that you kind of go into each match expecting that anything can go wrong, but especially with these matches and the weapons that you're able to use and everything like that, it can just get really crazy. So I think you kind of go into it trying to be as safe as possible, but also try and make it as crazy as possible. So some things go right, some things go wrong, but at the end of the day, obviously, our goal is to have a killer match and also to do some crazy stuff with it being safe. But the last match, like I said, did not go that way.
Yeah, it's almost like every little piece of it is some other variable that can kind of throw things off too. But like you said, something like that could happen in any. I've seen catastrophic injuries happen in real, in regular just
Yeah.
one-on-one matches when people slide wrong or something or miss a step or, so it's not, I think they sometimes get a bad rap, but it's just, you just have to be in control of the situation. So can you tell me a little bit about your background and how it was exactly that you ended up landing in this world of pro wrestling?
Yeah, so I mean, growing up, I've definitely said this before, but I just grew up watching wrestling as a fan, and my dad loved wrestling, and I would watch it with him every week. I have two brothers, and they never were really into it, so I would sit down with my dad every week and watch it, and my favorite part of it was the stories. So obviously, the physicality is the cool part as well. It's entertainment, but it's also, these crazy athletes that are doing these crazy things. So all of it really interested me, but like I said, the story part especially. So I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like this is like a TV show that you get to tune into each week and get these things like and follow up and tell a story and see what happens at the end of it. So I loved it. And I growing up just kind of did normal stuff. I danced, I cheered, but I always said I wanted to wrestle, and my parents always were supportive and always said like, yeah, you should try it. And after high school, I went to college, and I just kept saying like, I just need to find somewhere that I can train, and ended up finding somewhere. So here I am now.
And that was at what's now the Nightmare Factory. I think it had a different name before that. Just and so was it that easy of a decision to just turn around and just say, all right, I'm going to go here. If this works, then we're going to go for it. Or
Yes. So basically, what happened is my uncle, who's really great friend and roommate, I think in college, Glacier WCW,
wow.
he was friends with him and knew that I wanted to wrestle, and they just talked about it, and it happened really in the coolest way because he basically was saying, I'm opening this wrestling school with QT Marshall. If she's really interested and she really is serious about it, tell her to come try it and see if she likes it. And that's what I did. I went to a super camp, it was called, at the Power Factory, which was the name before the Nightmare Factory. And I went one weekend, drove to Atlanta. It was snowing in Atlanta. My brother came with me, and I didn't even step foot in the ring because I obviously never had, so there was no point of me actually getting in at this camp. But I just watched, observed, kind of went in into it not knowing what to expect, and I fell in love even more and knew that I wanted to do it, and ended up moving. I think about 6 months later, I finished out my college semester and then moved to Atlanta full time.
So how far before I remember seeing your first match on television was right in the thick of the beginning of the global pandemic. a complete unknown you were at the time, against Hikaru Shida about 3 years ago, I guess it was now, on Dynamite April 1st at the Nightmare Factory, I believe.
Yeah.
And just somebody with a great look and a presence about you. What was, how long after that was this, and what was the reaction to that performance like for you?
Yeah, you're saying how long after
How long
Sheeta?
after you started
Oh, yeah.
was that?
Yeah, so I mean, not super long. I did have a shoulder injury in between, which stopped me for a little while from training, and then also I was going to debut in an indie match, and I never got to do that in the beginning. It was probably, I think I started training in 2018, and then I wrestled for about, gosh, I want to say 6 months or so, and then ended up getting hurt. Then I was out for about 6 or 7 months. Then I came back, did about 5 indie matches, I think, and then the pandemic happened. So it was just kind of my luck, which was bad at the time, but didn't know that it was going to lead to something like this.
Right.
Yeah, and then the pandemic started, and they were doing the tapings at the Nightmare Factory in Atlanta. Didn't have a lot of talent on hand because of travel being, canceled and that sort of thing. So I got asked to go, and that was history then.
And then just your reaction. What was the reaction like to your performance, and how did you feel that it went? And it's even hard to tell in that kind of an environment too, because the first, I don't know how long of your career was in front of no fans of
Yeah.
TV wise.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it was weird, but it was also like the best way to go into it with there being no fans, just because like the only few indie matches that I had weren't, it was 60 to 100 people maybe, but I was so used to doing matches and training, which was no one, just wrestlers. Yeah, so it was super cool. The reaction was great. I thought, I mean, after that, my Twitter kind of blew up and all of that kind of stuff, and it obviously never had before because no one knew who I was. So I think it was for the most part positive reactions, and I remember, just feeling super great about it afterwards. And I was super happy, and I did not expect that to happen. So I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, that was tremendous. And what are some of the things you've worked to improve at kind of since then?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, wrestling in front of a crowd is a totally different beast, which is the most fun thing to do ever. But, you know, as I go, it's just more about getting reps and like being more comfortable in the ring, being more comfortable in front of a live crowd, being more comfortable in what I'm doing, and just getting used to doing it as much as I can, because a lot of these people who come into it already have that, and I did not, unfortunately. Obviously, I'm really lucky to have been signed, but sometimes it's hard just because I'm still learning as I go, which everyone's learning, I guess, in their own ways. But yeah, I'm definitely learning on live TV. So yeah, I try to take something every week whenever I do something and get feedback in the back and just go week to week.
Are there any specific mentors or veterans you've worked with to own your craft? Any wrestlers that you look to either inside or outside AEW as you continue to learn and improve, and kind of, just kind of watch and learn?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the obvious one I would say is Chris Jericho. I get to go to him every week and get feedback from him, whether it's with promos or wrestling. Another person would be BJ Whitmore. And he has been incredible with the women in AEW. So everyone, I think, would say the same things that I'm going to say. But yeah, he has been incredible and someone who's helped us a ton. And yeah, I really appreciate him. There's obviously tons of people that give feedback week to week. It just
Sure.
depends. But Chris and BJ are the two big ones that I can think of right now that really have helped me pretty much every week.
And BJ Whitmer is somebody with a ton of experience, so I'm not sure everybody would think of right off the bat when you talk about somebody who's been in the ring for a long time, but has also worked behind the scenes for a long time and helping people out too. So it's interesting to hear that. So he works a lot with the women's wrestlers in AEW. You're saying?
Yeah, he's incredible. Yeah, I mean, pretty much every woman on the roster he has obviously worked with at least once, probably. But yeah, he's the best and someone who's very great to go to.
What is it like being in AEW right now? It's kind of a really exciting time for the company. Obviously, Double or Nothing's coming up in Las Vegas at the end of the month. A probable record-setting crowd at Wembley Stadium in August. What do you think about when you hear those things? And just, I guess, what is it like being in this company at this point in its history?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna probably say the obvious, but it's awesome and it's super cool. And yeah, it's a great feeling. It really feels like there's so much excitement behind what we're doing right now, which there normally always is, but right now feels even different. It feels even like a greater thing that we're about to do. which is cool because it's just like we keep moving up and keep going, which is the goal, obviously, but to actually see that it's happening and to feel that it's happening is a whole other thing. So yeah, Double or Nothing coming up, like you said, Wembley's incredible. Never thought that that would happen, and not in a bad way. It's more just like we knew we were going to the UK, but who would have thought that it would have been Wembley and sold this many tickets at this point in time. So yeah, it's incredible and a great time to be a part of AEW.
And I always say to people too, whether, people get a little bit tribal with certain fan directions of, okay, I like this company or I like that company, but the growth and the sustainability of AEW is so important for the pro wrestling industry, the wrestlers themselves, and just to be able to give the fans a different option, a different take on what wrestling is. Do you kind of see it that way too?
100%. Yeah. I mean, pro wrestling is something like I have always been a fan of. So to see, like you said, it's like a whole other thing, a whole different company, and it's thriving and it's something different for people who want to see something like AEW is doing. So yeah, 100%. I think it's just adding to it and making pro wrestling better as a whole.
So with Double or Nothing coming up, any predictions on how the Four Pillars match might go with MJF defending against Jungle Boy Jack Perry, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara?
Well, this is hard to say because, I'm in JAS. We've got Sammy Guevara, incredible talents. Then we've got Jungle Boy, who obviously I am rooting for behind the scenes a little bit. But then you kind of have the obvious, MJF. I don't really see him losing this, but, you never know. Of course, I'm pulling for someone else too, but we'll see. It'll be a great match regardless.
And it's so cool to see, in this part of a pay-per-view, the headline part of a pay-per-view, to see talent that new and that young and that fresh to a national audience too. Regardless of which way it goes, you're still getting that. So, you're getting a relatively new direction, for the company. So has it been nice to see kind of, sort of those originals, of which you're kind of one of them, because, you started pretty early in the company too, to see, people like that getting this type of an opportunity.
Oh, 100%. And it just kind of goes to show that like All Elite Wrestling is growing these stars and from the ground up. And it's because of, them personally. And it's also because of the company itself. So I think it's great. And yeah, like you said, the Four Pillars is a great example of that, for incredible, talented people that are going to be, headlining a pay-per-view, and they've all started here in AEW. So yeah, I think it's great and it's really cool, and it's a testament to AEW and the talents themselves.
And as you personally look at the Forbidden Door, are there any people on the other side of the Forbidden Door that you'd like to see across the ring from you as we come up on this?
Well, I probably know it will not be me, but I do hope our champion Jamie Hayter has some sort of match there. I don't know. I mean, there's obviously a lot of great talents on the other side. I think there's obviously a few obvious ones that some people do want to see, and there's been a huge fuss about, seeing certain people be at this pay-per-view. But I don't know. Like I said, I think for me personally, I just want to see Jamie Hayter have a match and have a killer match with someone.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to to be able to see the women have that opportunity. New Japan is a unique company in that they just culturally in New Japan, it's men's matches. They've started doing a little bit more on the women's side with the IWGP title and also doing some of the stuff domestically. But even with Stardom and some of that kind of stuff too, and I know you guys have had a number of different Japanese talents in the company too. So I'm not really sure how much you've gotten to wrestle a number of them. I know they've had like Ryu Mizunami in. They've had, obviously Emi Sakura is there all the time, pretty much. Mei Saruga and some of those other ones. Any of those that you'd like to, even if it's not at Forbidden Door itself, just be able to step in the ring and kind of just see where you stand with them?
Yeah, I've been in a match versus Emi Sakura in a tag match, I think on Dark, multiple times. So I've gotten to work with her some, and she's incredible. And I think people have definitely gotten to see that more and more over time. So I think I would love to have a singles with her. I also have worked with Yuka as a tag partner, and I think she's incredible. So to wrestle her, I think would also be really cool. But yeah, I would say probably one of those two that I would love to. I mean, but all of them are great. Like you said, all of them are super talented and bring something different. So any of them.
What's the biggest difference when you step in with somebody like a Yuka Sakazaki or an Emi Sakura for you?
What's different, like just than everyone
Anything
else?
different, like stylistically? Anything you need to do different? Any adjustments you need to make that you wouldn't maybe normally do against somebody, with more of an American style, I guess.
I wouldn't say adjustment necessarily, but I would say they're pretty much all incredible talents. So I don't know. I think going into it, you almost feel more confident in a way. Um, I don't know. I think there's really kind of go into every match kind of feeling the same and kind of making adjustments accordingly to each one individually. I think everyone is kind of different. So I don't think it's necessarily their style. I think it's really just like a personal adjustment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I know people always seem to enjoy your kind of outbursts backstage when you have your, yelling at people and stuff like that. I always crack up when Emi Sakura just, she'll just add some little verbal cues in her matches that get me either singing the "We Will Rock You" or just yelling out "I Am Your Highness" for no reason in the middle of a match. So I think you gotta maybe you have to react differently. It's fun to see how that kind of in-ring personality can come out of somebody like that, even when there's maybe a language barrier or something else like that too.
Sure.
Universal language being wrestling. Um, what was it like for you being with Brody Lee in the original Dark Order, and kind of how did you end up in there, and what kind of influence was he on you and on the group as a whole?
Yeah, how I ended up there, that was pretty much the first thing that I was a part of, obviously. I think once I got signed, their idea was kind of for me to join. I didn't really understand how I was going to fit in, especially with the character that I guess I came into AEW with. Obviously, that would all change and everything, and it ended up being the best thing ever. His influence on me, incredible. I'm so thankful for the time that I did have with him and all of our guys. He was great. I say this all the time. He would always watch my stuff as well and give me feedback and help me. And he was super kind. And the influence he had on the group as well was just great. And it was really like a comfortable energy that he had, and a comfortable energy with the whole group. And it just, everything fit. And we had really just the most fun together, to be honest. And I think everyone could see that on BTE. So yeah, I'm super thankful for those times. And those guys are always like family.
When you're in a group, is there an off-screen sort of dynamic of the group that can make it work too? Any sort of chemistry that develops among the members?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like me saying family, it really feels like that. Like we really feel like they really are my brothers, and we are great friends outside of it, and you almost kind of have to be. It's hard to, probably work with someone that you don't really want to laugh with and stuff. So that was even more so to the extreme. Like I couldn't look at them without laughing. So yes,
Right.
it was great.
And they gave you the number 99 right off the bat too. Did you understand it completely right away, or?
No, and I have said this to you before. I think maybe Chris Jericho even asked me, like, no, he gave me the number and never really said anything. And I just kind of went with it. I was like, maybe there's no meaning to it. I don't know. And then later I found out that it was because of Wayne Gretzky's number and him being such a huge fan of hockey and being the great one. I think I found that out maybe in an interview that Brody Lee did.
Interesting.
I never knew. Probably should have asked, but I was so shy when I first got there and stuff. I just pretty much did what I was told and just went with it. But yeah, it's super cool that I got that.
I think some people were thinking about Agent 99 from the old Get Smart too, whether it was that, but then you realize that, okay, Brody was also a huge hockey fan, so it makes a lot of sense for the other way too, and it works both ways. Yeah. Now you're in the Jericho Appreciation Society. How is that similar, and how does it differ to the times in the Dark Order? And I actually had written down to ask you what it was like learning and working with Jericho, but we already touched on that. But there's so many other people in that group too that have been around for a while and have a lot of perspective on wrestling for sure.
Yeah, no, the group is fun. It's a different dynamic, but also the same in the way that we have had really a great time. Even like on the Jericho cruise, I'd laughed so much with these people. So it's great to have those experiences because it just makes that bond stronger, and then it makes the chemistry on screen stronger too. And then with Jericho, he's obviously great and knows so much and has so much knowledge and experience, and it's been great to be able to go to him. He's someone that I've always been a fan of. Like even when I met him, I think I was in shock. Like I just never thought I would meet him, let alone get to work with him and be in a faction with him. So it's been really cool. And yeah, everyone's been great. Daddy Magic, he's kind of like my John Silver of the group, always making me laugh. So it's, like I said, it's a different dynamic, but it's also the same in a lot of ways. But it's been good. It's been great.
Was Jericho somebody you, when you were growing up watching the shows, that you gravitated towards?
Yeah, and I think too, it was more like my dad was a fan. And so even if I didn't like necessarily relate to watching him, I would always watch because I knew my dad liked him. So it was just cool, like knowing that and then being able to meet him and work with him. So yeah, for sure.
And would that have been WCW Jericho or WWE Jericho?
It was WWE.
Interesting, because some of his earlier stuff, his WCW stuff, was kind of like when I was in college, and that was
Yeah.
always the stuff with the list of the 1004 holds and all that stuff, and going to the Library of Congress and
Yeah.
messing with Dean Malenko, all just such creative stuff that ended up, obviously leading to all the other stuff that he did too. But
Yeah.
such a body of work there that unbelievable. So when you said the line about your behind and your bad attitude, were you expecting that to turn into a t-shirt, or was it just something that you said? And what did you think of the reaction to that?
I kind of knew if I was gonna say it, like it was going to kind of create some sort of buzz, whether bad or good. I don't know. I thought it was just kind of on brand with the whole JAS because everything's kind of ridiculous in like a great way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought it fit, and I was like, you know what? People sometimes say these kind of things to me. Why don't I just say it and just see where it goes? And yeah, I just kind of went with it. So I kind of thought about saying it for a little while, but I kind of went back and forth. I was like, I don't know if I want to say it because it's not really me personally.
Right.
But it works with the JAS, and yeah, I just decided to say it, and that's kind of how it happened.
It becomes a t-shirt, you make a little bit of money off of it, and what the heck.
Yeah.
And as far as the reaction to it, it seems like it's actually been a pretty positive reaction in terms of body positivity, that kind of thing too, from fans. So what have you thought of that?
Yeah, I think it's great, and that's kind of one of the things that I was thinking too. And when I was talking to other people about saying it, I was like, I think this is great because a lot of women, like, I feel like they can relate, and guys too, and like even guys backstage are like, I want this shirt. I've got Daddy Magic wearing it backstage, and so it's kind of funny. But yeah, I kind of thought about that too. I was like, honestly, it's kind of a positive thing. So if I'm gonna say it about myself, then other people want to say it about themselves too.
Very, very good. So we're going to move on to something we call the 3 count now. It's going to be 3 quick questions and your answers. So first question, the meme of John Silver whispering to you. Do you have a favorite fan interpretation of what he was saying?
I mean, I think probably the generic one. It is funny, like a lot of the memes that they compare it to are the ones where a guy is talking to a girl and she's just not interested. So maybe not like the text itself, but just the picture and thinking in that way. I think it's funny.
All right. Second question, if Anna Jay could come to the ring to any song on the radio, what song would you choose to enter to?
Oh my gosh, this is kind of funny. Not right now, but I will say a funny story. Before I was even starting to train with wrestling, I would imagine like what I would walk out to, and it was the time that "Fancy" by Iggy Azalea, excuse me, came out with that song, and it was super popular, and I was like, this is the song that I want, so I'll say it out.
What song was that? I'm sorry.
"Fancy" by Iggy Azalea. Okay. Super basic, popular song. Everyone knew it. Not a good song to walk out to the ring with, but that's what I wanted.
But if that's what you wanted at the time, yeah. It's all wrestling's all about timing and stuff like that too. So, and then the last question: if you could switch personas with an AEW wrestler for one day, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh, personas. That's a hard one. Who would I switch with? Sorry, let me think. I know it's supposed to be quick.
There's no rules.
Cassidy, because he's so relaxed and kind of doesn't care, but he does. He just comes off very chill. I don't know, and he kind of can be lazy about certain things. So yeah, maybe him.
That's a good one because then he'd have to switch with you also. So he'd be yelling at people and choking them out backstage, and that would be very unique for him. What I love about him is like, yeah, he's got the whole. I didn't understand his character at all when it started. And once you just realize, like, oh, it's all just psychology. Like, that's all that it is. And that he's actually fantastic.
Oh, my gosh. And a workhorse. Let me say that. Literally, someone needs to check on him. He is really putting in the work for this title and stuff. So he's incredible.
It's been absolutely amazing run, and I don't think one that people would have necessarily expected too. So it's great, but he's got the low resting heart rate, like they say. So I think he's gonna make it through.
Right.
But, yeah, it'll be fun to watch you guys switch places, undoubtedly. Well, Anna Jay, thank you so much for joining me today on Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. Really enjoyed this, and all the best to everything you've got coming up in AEW and everything you're a part of.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.